It is probably around 7 years ago, today, not today, but somewhere in November, when over there, our dinner table was situated over there around the time. We have been moving around a lot of stuff in our house the past few years. Jeanette Richel asked me during dinner if I was willing to write a book about her father, Bob Richel. And I told her I had to think about it because I was not sure if Bob was a very interesting subject. And boy, was I wrong. I was so wrong. The past 2 years, no, I'm saying it wrong, the past 4 years, I started the research on Bob Richel on April 22nd in 2018. In 2018 I published my first book with Troy Books, and that was The Silent Listener, The Life and Works of J.H.W. Eldemans. And Mr. Eldemans was the father-in-law of Bob Richel, and I started the research on the 22nd of April because in the beginning of April we were in Cornwall to launch The Silent Listener, and I would be home well by the 22nd, and I could have prepared myself for the research by then. And the 22nd of April was Bob's birthday. That was a major decision to plan it on that date. And a lot of people wondered why did I write the book so quickly after Eldemans, and that's mostly because Eldemans lied a lot about his life, and he told a lot of things that were actually untrue. Bob was a dead honest man. If he told you he was in the resistance, he was. I could go into the National Archives, I could lift the file, and I would find Bob's name. And with Eldemans that was a total different approach, because he told he was an officer, and I couldn't find him in the roll books for the officers of the Dutch army. He told people that he arrested a certain director of a very famous museum in Rotterdam. I couldn't find his name in those files, and it appeared that Mr. Eldemans made his life much more interesting than it actually was, maybe out of a need to stand out towards how others perceive you, and not as much as how people actually think about you. Bob was more the kind of meat and potatoes personality. He wasn't ashamed of where he worked, except for one job he held in a factory for munitions in Zaandam, the place where near I live. I pass that factory every day when I'm going to my job at the Rijksmuseum. And he was ashamed not of the fact that he was producing munitions as a pacifist, but most of all he was ashamed that he was a factory worker. And he saw that really as a social step down the ladder instead of a step up. And you can see that when Bob is again in a position where he has a partial desk job or more administrative kind of work, that he feels that he is doing what he deserves to be doing. So what I want to do in this little video is give you a small impression of who Bob was, where he lived, and what you can expect from the book Gallowmen and Mandrakes, The Occult Life of Bob Laurentius Richel. Thank you very much. To know someone is to see where they lived. Only then will you imagine what it was like. From a map you can gather so much, but actually see it, walk the distance, you will start to understand why people moved around so much in such short distance. De Zaagmolenstraat. It was here where Bob was born, and his parents ran a cigar shop on the ground floor. De Veurstraat, the center of their religious beliefs. Around the corner, the Hildegardist Church, where Bob was baptized in 1925. And his school, still a Roman Catholic primary school, but no longer the Hendrik Bakker School. The house where Bob felt himself without care, happy, with his museum of natural history, and a mother who loved him dearly. And the trauma. Here, at 142B, Bob would experience firsthand the cruelty of war. The German bombardment ripped right through the Agniesestraat. The scar is still visible, where 30s architecture makes way for modern buildings. Amsterdam. The Richel family moved here in the latter part of 1940. A different city then. Here Bob grew up to be a man. Here he developed his interest in the occult. Here he met his first wife, got divorced, and decided to burn all ships behind him. De Marnixstraat 400. He lived here twice. First after his divorce. Next door used to be a cinema. Bob moved across the street and then returned again to this location. 4 steep stairs up and 3 down for the toilet and kitchen. And in the distance, the Leidse Square, the center of the city. Going out as a young man contributed to his social life. Some things never change, like the number of bars at the Leidse Square. One bar was Bob's favorite. Here he would meet with friends, discuss art, and eventually meet the love of his life, who would introduce him to a man who would be of profound influence, J.H.W. Eldemans. As someone who collects works about the people he writes about, here are 2 works I have by Bob. The one on the right is a mandrake root, which I got for my birthday in 2018 from Wilmar Richel. And the fun fact about this particular mandrake, as we will approach it a little bit from the front. This one is inspired by a work his father-in-law had produced, and we can find that in the library of the Museum of Witchcraft and Magic. And in fact, I wrote an article about the comparison between this mandrake and the one his father-in-law made in the Inquiring Eye. And the giveaway were these 2 symbols on top. but Bob's Mandrake route is far more, how should I say it, unsettling. This work I have acquired on a gallery in Amsterdam. The owner contacted me actually if I could tell something more about this work, and it was actually priced in a price range that I could acquire it myself. So I decided to buy it. And this work has been originated in 1977. We can see that here, where Bob signed the work, if the camera wants to cooperate. Here's the date in 1977. But here we see another date in 1991. So this depiction has been worked on more than 14-15 years after Bob originally started working on it. And the thing I suspect that Bob has added in 1991 are the gnomes. Here we see one gnome. Next to that, a gnome that's barfing out something that he previously devoured, or something that's jumping into his mouth. Here are two gnomes falling. There are gnomes fornicating. Here is a whole bunch of gnomes on the side. And why do I suspect that this was in 1991? Because Bob got really submerged into the gnome culture thanks to a book that was written by Henriette Gorter, and in which he cooperated with her by borrowing materials from Eldemans to her that she could use to write that particular book. Thank you so much for watching this video about Gallowmen and Mandrakes, the occult life of Bob Laurentius Richel. I hope it piqued your interest in acquiring the book and read about Bob's fascinating life yourself. So, thank you very much and have a great day.